Okay, welcome to our shir, Parshas Mekeitz, Tafshin Pei Aleph, and also Zois Chanukah. So we'll have to mention something. Of course, Chanukah is sadly drawing to a close. So let's talk about the beginning of the parsha, where Yosef is brought into Melech Mitzrayim, and he gives him great advice. And first, he's asked to interpret the dream, which he does brilliantly. And of course, you know, when the Paro tells him, like, "Wow, that was impressive." So right away, Yosef says, "Biladai, not me. Elokim Yanis Shalem Paro. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do it." So immediately he shows Paro a tremendous midah of anova, of humility. Can you imagine? You're standing in front of Paro Melech Mitzrayim, in front of the king, even bigger than the president. He can put people to death a lot easier than a president can do that. And the president says something nice to you, and you interrupt him. And you say, no. That's the kind of self-confidence that the young man known as Yosef had. He was 30 years old. And he was able to stand in front of the Melech Mitzrayim, the feared Melech Mitzrayim. But he was willing even to put himself in sakona, not to let it be thought that he is a yesh, he's something. He right away allowed us to understand that it's the anova, that's the Rebbeinu Shem did it. And that infuses his advice and explains something else. Says the Ber Moshe, the Heilig Rosh Rabbi, the Zayda, tells us this important yesod. If we take a look, as soon as he finishes with explaining the dream, at the end in Pasuk Lamed Beis says, "Aval yishanos hachaloim hazeh," and then why was it El Paro Pamayim? Why did it do it twice? Ki nachay nadaver mimelakim. Because it's for sure Hashem's going to do it, and Hashem's going to make it happen right away. And then, unsolicited, without him being asked, he launches into giving him advice. He says, "Va'ata yare paro ish novin v'chacham v'yiseo al eretz Mitzrayim." Take an ish novin v'chacham, take a man of wisdom. Novin is maven davar mitay davar, somebody who's got insight, understanding, and a chacham, and make him that of Paro, that of Mitzrayim. So, it's a kasha. How can he do that? He's taking his life in his hands. Paro could have said, "I didn't ask your advice," or as they say, as Queen Victoria once said, "We are not amused." And he could have said, "We are not interested in your advice," in the royal we. And he didn't. You'll see how he responds. So the question is, number one, why did Yosef do that? And number two, it says, take a novon v'chacham. Now, if you daven nusach svard, so you'll know that in Ata Chaynin L'Adam Das, what do you say? Ata Chaynin L'Adam Das, L'Adam Bina, Chanein Micha, Chachma Bina V'das. So what comes first? Comes first Chachma. Chachma Bina V'das. It's in an ascending order. Chachma, then Bina and Das. So what did Yosef do? He said Novin V'chacham. Why did he say Chacham V'Novin? That's the order. So Zok the Heilig Ber Moshe, that he was teaching Paro something critical. He was saying that you have to, if you want this person to succeed, and you want him to be Al Eretz Mitzrayim, and you want him to be the person who will make this effort successful, you're going to go through hard times. It's going to be, you're going to have all this good times, and you have to have somebody who's not corrupt, and somebody who understands the system and understands the people he's working with. You want all of these things. So you have to have somebody that you can trust. What is one of the main ingredients? See, he says something very interesting. He has to be an onav. He has to be a humble person. Because a person of gaiva will never succeed. An onav, a humble person, can think of other people, while gaiva can only think of themselves. As the Queen Marie Antoinette famously said, when there was no food in the kingdom, let them eat cake. Because she had absolutely no idea what it meant to be poor. She had absolutely no idea what it meant to be without food. So he tells them, take somebody who's a novin v'chacham. What does that mean? So he explains, it should be chacham and novin, as we asked. Novin means is greater than a chacham. Take somebody who's a novin, who's a maven davar mitayk davar. He understands one thing else inside another thing. He's able to get the whole picture. He can get they come in and they give him the raw statistics, and he's able to interpret them all. But he's a person who only thinks he's a chacham. he doesn't consider himself a Navan. He only considers himself a Chacham. Navan v'Chacham. He's a Navan, he's a greater Madrega. But v'Chacham, he only thinks he's a Chacham. It says, Paro, you want somebody to lead the effort? It has to be somebody who has humility. And only somebody with humility is able to do that. And that's how he explains it. So you have to have somebody who's a Chacham. And indeed, he answered. Paro picked it up. And he picked it up, and what did he say? Says Paro in Pasuk Lametes, the beginning of the top of the page of 121. Vayomer Paro al Yais, Paro says, Achri Odio, Elokim Aisai, Aischa. Says after HaKadosh Baruch Hu has informed you, right? As Kol Zeis, he told you all of this, you knew this from Hashem. So Paro right away bought into it. Yosef says it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Paro, remember, Paro was pretty big about guy, but remember it's Paro. And nevertheless, he understood the truth of what Yosef is saying. And he says, I need somebody who taka, that Hashem showed in his heart, a Navan v'Chacham k'maycha. There's no Navan, and there's no Chacham like you. Because you're taka an humble person. You're taka somebody will be able to go and make a difference in the kingdom. Because only an Onav can understand what other people are going through. Only an Onav can have the sensitivity. Only the Onav will be able to say, I feel so bad about the other people, because he can see into other people's hearts. He doesn't just see into his own heart. And that's something that Paro right away understood. And he says, he brings from Pasuk in Koheles, it says that Melech Zokin Uksil, that it tells us that there's the Yeled Zokin, Yeled Miskin, if there's a poor Yeled, the Chacham, he's better than Melech Zokin Uksil. The poor boy, and he says, who's that? Yosef, Zeh Yosef says the Medrash. That's Yosef. So he was a Yeled, he was a Chacham or Miskin, because he was poor, because he didn't see himself as a big rich person. He saw himself as a poor person. Poor in Das, where he knew so much. It's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yosef taught us the way to be an Onav. That says that Moshe Rabbeinu's Mela was Onav Mikol Adam. Moshe Rabbeinu, how does he become the Onav Mikol Adam? How is it possible? So I once heard a story that there was a Yid that went into a shul that he was never in before. And you know how it is when a new person comes to a shul, they're looking around, they don't know where things are. So, and you stand in the back, you're a little uncomfortable. And it's a packed shul. And he sees all of a sudden the door in the back opens, and a man walks in, escorted by two people on each side, and they walk him all the way to the front row, and they sit him down right in front of the Rav. And he's so impressed. Who is this person? So he turns to the person standing next to him and says, wow, he must be some Talmid Chacham. They walk him in, they stand him up next to the Rav. So the guy looks at him and says, Talmid Chacham, he's a regular guy, he sleeps through the Daf Yomi. I mean, he's not Talmid Chacham. He's a good person. There's nothing wrong with him, but I wouldn't call him a big Talmid Chacham. So he's trying to figure out, so he says, well, maybe he's a big Gvir, he's very rich. Very rich. What he told me is like a shul mouse. Doesn't have any money. He's a poor man. So he's figuring it out. I can't figure out why didn't he take him up to the front. So he says maybe he's an askin. He does for the shul. He cleans up afterwards. He repairs the sidurim. His mamish does everything the shul needs. So he goes, no, he's a working guy. He doesn't really have time for that. So he says, I don't understand something. So why'd you bring him up to the front? What does he have? What's special? So, he's an Onav. He's a humble person. So the guy says, I don't understand you. He's not a Talmid Chacham. He's not a Gevir. He's not an Askin. What does he have to be an Onav about? You have to have something to show for yourself. Being an Onav meant you have accomplishments, but you understand those accomplishments are from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's an Onav. Moshe Rabbeinu could be Onav Mikol Adam, because Moshe Rabbeinu had the most to be an Onav about. More than anybody else, he had the most accomplishments. So he was an Onav. What does it mean to be an Onav? How do you do it? What's the secret? Yosef showed us the secret. We said, Biladai. Not I. It's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I might have all the milas in the world. It might be gewaltic, wonderful, great. But it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what Yosef taught us. The secret to success, the secret to Hanova, And once we have that anova, we can be the smartest, the richest, the handsomest, whatever it is. That's fine. Use those talents. Use those tools. If you're rich, give a lot of tzedakah. Do good things with it. If you're a Talmid Chacham, learn up a storm. If you're handsome, but no, or if you're smart, no, it's all from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's the secret of Yosef. And with that anova, we can change the world. Because once a person stops thinking about themselves and they can think about everybody else, then they can accomplish. If a person's in a shul, in whatever setting it is, in the work, and all they are is jealous of everyone else because they think they should have been they're not going to go far. Anova is not denial of talent, is not denial of anything. Anova is a reality of knowing whatever you have comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom. I heard from Reb Tadros Milli, spoke at the Aguda convention, and he said a very beautiful thing. We're coming up with Chanukah, and he was sort of explaining. He said over a very nice thing. He said about Rav Hutner. He used to write in minutes. He used to write a diary. Kept a diary, and when he was young, and he wrote one time. He used to have a regular seder in Tanakh, and he missed his seder in Tanakh, and he wrote beautifully. He says, I get so much nachas and hana out of that seder in Tanakh, and I missed today. For whatever reason, I had legitimate honest, and I couldn't do it, and I had tsar that I didn't have my regular seder. And he says, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give me reward for the learning of the Torah, he's giving me a reward for the tsar, for the pain that I feel when I'm not able to learn Hashem's Torah. And that's such an important lesson. He tells the famous story of Reb Zish and Reb Elimelech that they were once going to an inn and they got captured. They got somebody got there was a gun Geneva in the city, and they threw Reb Zish and Reb Elimelech in jail. And they were sitting in jail, and Reb Zish sees Reb Elimelech is very downcast, and he says, "My brother, why are you downcast?" He says, "I don't just feel well." He says, "Why? We know that wherever Kodesh Baruch Hu puts a person, that's where he's supposed to be. If we're supposed to be in jail, we're supposed to be in jail. There's no reason to be downcast. Who knows what we'll accomplish here?" So he says, "That's why I'm not downcast. I'm downcast because I can't daven mincha. And I feel bad I can't daven mincha." So he says, "You know something?" He says, "Don't be downcast about that. Because all our years we had such nachas davening mincha, we knew we were serving the Rebbeinu Shalom." He says, "Now we can have tsar. We can feel bad that we can't serve the Rebbeinu Shalom." And that's a beautiful machshava. That I can't serve the Rebbeinu Shalom, I have tsar. Hashem appreciates that just as much. So Rabbi Elimelech said, "Oh, you're right. Wow, I feel better already." And he starts to smile. And he says, "You know something? I feel like singing." And they start to sing. And singing led, they started to dance. And they started to dance. And they started to dance around there was a chamber pot in the middle, and that's why he couldn't daven mincha. So he started to dance around it, to sing that Baruch Hashem, we can't serve Rebbeinu Shalom. We're happy because we have tsar that we can't serve Rebbeinu Shalom. So all of the prisoners joined in the dance in the room. They were with others, and they dancing around. And the warden, the guard comes, and he's very upset. He says, "What's going on here?" Turns to one of the goyim, one of the other inmates. And the other inmate says, "Well, it seems the Jews have a minute. They dance around in the chamber pot in the middle." So the warden says, "I'm going to fix those Jews." And he takes the chamber pot and he takes it out of the room. So Rav Zisha says to Reb Elimelech, "Nu can we show daven mincha? We can now daven mincha." And they daven mincha. But they showed, because he said, "I can't daven mincha because there's a bad reach, there's a bad smell in the room." And Rav Zisha said, "That's also to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu." So he said, by Chanukah, it says the Rambam, that they were punished with this whole Maisa with Yovan because they didn't appreciate the mitzvahs enough. So you don't appreciate the mitzvahs? Okay, Hashem's going to take the mitzvahs away. He's not going to give you the ability. So Yevanim came and took it away, and they all felt terrible. And when the Tikkun came, when they finished the war with the Yevanim, and they went into Beis Hamikdash, they had to search. It didn't come easy. They had to look around for the oil. And by looking around, they showed how much they appreciated it. And they had, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're not machshav the mitzvahs? Take them away for a while. And as they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. When they didn't have the mitzvahs, they became distressed. We don't have the mitzvahs. We feel very bad about it. And the Kodesh Baruch said, "Oh, you feel bad? You're going to get it back." That's when they won the war. When they showed that they had done tshuva by missing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the opportunity to search for the oil. And by searching for the oil, they showed they really wanted. They could have had 1,000,000 heter, and we all know that. They could have to Mehutra b'tzibur. We know all the truths. They could have gotten away with it. It wouldn't have been a big deal. It's an oinus. But by searching for the mitzvahs, by searching there, they showed they cared about the mitzvahs. They wanted the mitzvahs back. Just like Rav Hutner told us, just like the brothers of Zisher Bel told us, wanting the mitzvahs is a tremendous thing unto itself. And he said in this time, in the COVID, when so many people can't go places, they can't do things, can't always be. There was a tekuf where the people couldn't be with the minions. Even now, it depends on the matzav, But we miss going to the show. We miss the davening b'tzibur. We miss the ability to go to a chasna maybe, or to go to a bris, and all of that missing is very dear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's heart. It's like when a child writes a letter home. Says, "Mommy, Tati, I miss you. I'm in camp, I miss you." It warms the parents' hearts. Hazeh Geshmak. Hazeh Geshmak. It's the same thing. The Rebbeinu Shalom looks and he says, my kinderlach miss me. That's so nice. So that's a tremendous thing. So it says, Kashem shemekabel schar al hadrisha, kach mekabel schar al prisha. Sometimes we get schar for saying, and sometimes we get schar for not saying. And this is one of those times, just to take that and say, Kach Makam Sar Drisha, when we can do the mitzvahs, Kach Makam Sar Prisha, as long as it's L'Shem Shemaim. So Baruch Hashem, so we learned about Yosef, and we learned about the tremendous anova of Yosef, and how we can learn from his anova, and anova means that it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can have all the talent in the world, all the good things, smart, money, you got it. It's from Rabbi Shalom, fine. Then that's anova. That means you understand it doesn't come from you, all of that talent. And then you can use it for other people. I can use it l'tayv. And we understand from Reb Zisha, Reb Elamel, from Rav Hutner. We understand this. He's from Tadros Miller. Beautifully, spoke beautifully. I recommend going to the Aguda website and taking a look at it. You'll mamish enjoy the drasha, see if I got it right. But he says beautifully that when we miss HaKadosh Baruch Hu truly appreciates it and truly loves us back. And there's a whole thing that we should always be able to do mitzvahs, but if chas v'sholom, there's a mania from our doing mitzvahs, we're preventing doing mitzvahs, we should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates the fact that we really miss doing those mitzvahs. Shall have a good Shabbos and a wonderful Zayis Chanukah, and we shall be Zaycha to the ultimate coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, where we'll have the embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu forever and ever. Shabbos.